This is Paul Nobles from eatform.com. I'm sitting here with April Blackford. April, do you want to say hi to everyone?
Hi, everybody.
I have a blemish on my forehead. That's one of the problems with like having no hair is like, you can't really hide stuff like that.
Well, if you had not have said anything, no one would have never noticed.
Oh, they would notice I have like an alien coming out of my forehead. So
Now we're just going to stare at it through the whole webinar because you said something.
I'm just gonna let you talk the whole time. Yeah, you know how that's gonna go.
Yeah.
Maybe I can pull my hair down, just to cover it up. Okay, so just being goofy here, I guess. We haven't really had a lot of questions started off. Okay, well here we go. We're starting off with a question right out the gate. Nadia is saying, I was in a car accident this weekend where I had a minor wrist fracture that resulted in having wear a splint. Doc says for 4 weeks. What can I do to maintain the muscle mass I gained while doing Windler? And if my appetite is not big, should I eat my resting day number or make myself eat training day numbers? I would say that, the biggest thing that I've learned during injuries is just to work around that injury. And, I have to be honest, as someone who wasn't fit before I came to CrossFit, it like shocked the hell out of me. You'd see somebody get injured doing something, kind of similar to what you're saying. And then 3 days later, they'd come in and, they'd be working on upper body stuff or something that just kind of worked them around their injury. And I had never seen that in my life ever before. And so that was a big eye opener for me. But in terms of what you would eat, I wouldn't say eat training day. I would kind of go a little bit by feel. To be completely honest with you, what I do is I weigh myself daily, right? And if the scale is down, and it's down dramatically, I definitely adjust my eating. What I would normally do is I would have some level of carbohydrate cycling. I'm not really aggressive with my carbohydrate cycling, which is sort of funny because I'm saying that because I am doing that a little bit today where I'm not super high on carbs. But normally on a rest day, I would be around 300 grams of carbs. I'm a little lower today just because it's been hot here and I've done a little bit more intensive cardio, like 2-hour sessions, things of that nature. And so I'm kind of letting my body cool down a little bit. And, it's sort of funny. There's no other way to explain it. But like basically all day long, I'm like, going to the bathroom. And so clearly my strategy is working at this point. Oh, shoot. I didn't realize that. Okay, sorry, you guys. I have to shut down Facebook, otherwise that will happen all webinar long. And then let me put my phone on. There we go. All right. So what are your thoughts on that, April? Do you have any good strategies for somebody that's working through an injury?
I would actually, I agree with what you said about her working around the injury. I think there's a ton of stuff she could probably do and focus on. Maybe she's got some lower body weaknesses or, things like that. There's a ton of lower body stuff that she can do, not necessarily with heavier weight. And I think that she can still maintain, her muscle mass and not have any issues with that. Keeping your protein as a priority, I would suggest, and also just overall not trying to get too aggressive with calories. That's the biggest issue that I see people doing is getting too aggressive, where they feel like they're not working out hard enough or, whatever, and they try to eat control days every day and then they end up gaining weight,
They might not be hungry, I mean, when you're not doing a ton, oftentimes you're not going to be super hungry, but what ends up happening in that scenario is that you'll end up, either losing a lot of weight or, like April's saying, gaining weight because of a stress factor. And so trying to retain some level of balance makes a lot of sense. I mean, you could squat, obviously,
You got walking lunges,
Yeah.
stuff, you know.
There's a lot of things that you can do to work around that injury. So I would encourage you to do that. Carl is asking, I'm hungry during my workouts, but have been eating my Fitbit. April has raised my macros 2 weeks ago. I go into my 6 a.m. workout with half banana on board. Fasted wasn't working well, so I started the banana thing. Is it bad if I'm hungry during the workout? I wouldn't say that it's bad. Obviously, if you want to add a little bit more food in that scenario, you certainly can. I can tell you that for myself, I in morning, normally not quite as acute as what yours is, but usually I'll have something like a 7-ounce yogurt with granola, and but that's usually about an hour and a half before. And but it really is person dependent. I mean, one of the things that Mike talks about in Metflex is, yes, you could work out fasted, but also, if you can fit some food in and that feels comfortable to you, I would encourage you to do so. In terms of whether or not, being hungry, for myself, I'll often have espresso for early morning workouts like that, and so maybe that helps a little bit with the hunger. But it really kind of comes down to what feels the most right for you. In general, you're going to be working with a set amount of numbers throughout the day, and so I don't have any hate for having food before you work out, as long as I think if you overdo it, you'll notice the problem right off the bat. What are your thoughts on that, April?
I think it's just research. Some people like something on their stomach before, and some people don't. They have the puke factor. Like what you said, the espresso, caffeine's a natural appetite suppressant. I don't know if she drinks coffee. I'm curious to know, since she added the half banana, if the hunger has subsided. But if she's consistently like ravenous hungry, then I would kind of look at her overall intake for the day, or for the week as an average, because it may be an indicator that her calories are too low. Obviously, she was under eating if she's now increased yet again. The increased hunger sometimes is a good sign that, your body's processing it, and you can go up yet again, if you're still under where you need to be.
Yeah, I mean, people are getting too hung up on this Fitbit thing, and I mean, April says it virtually every week, but no one seems to want to hear it. She eats 600 calories over her Fitbit burn on a daily basis. So, the problem with most people is that they're too cautious, and they don't want to gain weight or whatever. But you really sort of have to try and push that top end to figure out where your body really wants to be. It does certainly sound like, in Carla's instance, that her body wants a little bit more food. So I would keep pushing it. I think that, that's the other thing that I would say, though, is the one thing that I would try is add maybe like a tablespoon of peanut butter before bed, because that might actually help you a little bit. Sometimes with the carbohydrates, it will, kind of affect blood sugar a little bit, and the peanut butter for some people kind of stabilizes that a bit. Do you agree with that, April?
I do.
Alrighty, so we don't have any questions, so I think it'd be kind of fun to talk a little bit about
I had a question message to me on the forum, which I told her we would still bring the topic up, but I pretty much answered the question because it was pretty obvious what the answer was. But she has been working up to eat her Fitbit numbers on her workout days. She's increased her rest days, and she said on her rest or recovery days, her Fitbit is averaging 100 to 200 calories over what her intake is, and she was inquiring as to if she needed to increase those days. And my suggestion was to gradually increase. It sounds like her hunger's up. And this question was from Hillary, by the way. I assume that you would agree. I told her we'd still bring it up.
Well, the thing that's interesting about Hillary's situation is that she doesn't.
It's not the same one. It's a different one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it will, I mean, depending on whether or not she is, weight training or CrossFitting or something like that, it's not always going to show up. And so if you're doing a fair amount of lifts outside of that, you will often have more calories. I will say, one of the adjustments that I make in that scenario is I have a little bit more fat. I don't go too extreme. Usually I'm around 75 grams to 100 grams. And so normally on those types of days, I will be closer to the 100 grams than the 75 grams. And then I'll keep my carbs relatively reasonable. But yeah, even on rest days, I mean, in general, I'm near 3,000, and so you definitely want to eat. But I don't know that, normally on a workout day, my carbs are going to be 450 to 500. I would say they're probably closer, like I said earlier, to 300 on rest days. I think that's the biggest thing that we've been able to walk people through a little bit. We had so many people scared to death early on of carbs, and having so many people have success, I think, has sort of softened that a bit. I mean, obviously we have new people that struggle with that a little bit, but having so many examples of people having success, I think sort of calmed the fears. I mean, like 3 years ago when we first started off, it was like a whole different atmosphere. And now, we've sort of gotten to the point where, okay, you guys, you took off the training wheels. Now let's go the rest of the way. And so that's a little bit of the discussion we've been having in the Wave Method groups, and that's been kind of fun. I think that today I posted a video of one of the performance-focused fat loss assessments that we did with our group coaching. And what was nice about it was all three people were talking about all the things that they would have done different, including stopping, because, a lot of people think to themselves that, well, I have fat to use and I would like to get rid of it ASAP. And they don't realize that, hey, it's July 15th and I've got the rest of summer and I'd really like to enjoy summer, and so that was one of the topics that sort of came up. But I think that, for a lot of people, getting too aggressive on carbohydrates on the low end on rest days will often not allow you. This is actually interesting. This is an experiment that I've sort of done. Of course, I'm in the exact same scenario that I was in last week, but last week I did it a little bit better. No, I'm not unlike the rest of you guys. Sometimes my weekends get a little bit out of hand, and so on Mondays I sort of clean things up by, having a rest day and lowering my carbs a bit. And what I found last week, was that if I didn't let my weekend get out of hand, now luckily in that scenario, my kids were at camp. I could control things a little bit more. Sure enough, my kids came back from camp, pizza on Friday night, hamburgers and fries on Saturday night. And so, a little bit, I honestly think that, it was really more representative of the weather and some of the stuff that I've been doing. My training volume has gone up in a big, big way. And, certainly you'll have a little inflammation that you have to kind of process through. So it's going to be interesting to see what my workouts are like tomorrow, but what I did last time was, keeping my weekends in check a little bit, and my workout was a lot better. I ended up doing like 415 for a double. I had 395 for a triple, and I had to stop after one. So I definitely noticed a huge improvement by just being a little bit more conscious. Tomorrow I'm supposed to do 440. I might get there. If I'm gonna do 440, I'm almost certainly gonna be having pancakes for lunch. So, if it happens, it's because of the pancakes. Did that cover the question that she answered or asked?
I think it is. So tomorrow, if you do well in your workout, then last week was a good week. The week before, it was just an off day.
Yeah, I mean, just because, if I go for 440 and miss it, I mean, that just is what it is. I mean, it's a heavy weight for a 170-pound dude.
Now, I'm talking about the change in the weekend schedule.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that was a factor with the weekend schedule was I was just coming back from the CrossFit Games. And so I was still kind of dehydrated. I hadn't really gotten back into my workout routine. And so there was a lot of things. So certainly being a little bit more conscious of keeping a reasonable amount of carbohydrates and kind of relying on more, I wouldn't say whole foods, but I would say foods that add to my system rather than, take away from my system. That's probably the best way to say that. So Christina Boudreau, I'm guessing she's from Louisiana or knows someone from Louisiana. I've been doing Eat to Perform for 3 months now, gained 5 pounds, stronger, see a slight fat loss, sometimes still hungry. Question, my Apple Watch says I burn 3,200 to 4,000 calories a day. Still eating around my assigned macros, 2,100 to 2,500. My BioPod said 44%. Should I stay at my current macros? I would like to start the fat loss phase. Question about lifetime membership. How long is enrollment? I have bonus coming on the 28th. It probably won't be an issue for you. I would definitely encourage you to do the lifetime. I will walk you through a little bit of what we would tell you. And the one thing that we would tell you is your calories are way too low to do a performance-focused fat loss phase right now. And we would need you to consistently get to a point where your macros are a little closer to where your burn is for your Apple Watch. We don't necessarily need you to be at 4,000 as an example, but certainly on the days that you're burning 4,000 as someone with a little bit of fat to use, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3,500 is probably going to make some sense. Keeping your rest days probably close to that 3,200 probably also makes some sense. And frankly, I mean, if you're eating 2,100 to 2,500 right now, you could probably just take the next 6 to 8 weeks and sort of build to that. What I think you would find, and what we're seeing over and over again, is that the people who kind of want to cut, especially for somebody with a lot of fat to use, depending on where they've come from a dieting standpoint, sounds like you were actually fairly low, and we're still kind of normalizing your system. My suggestion would be, so here's my thought process. Okay, one, the next performance-focused fat loss is September 15th. Okay, the problem with September 15th is your body's not going to be acclimated to it enough. Okay, so then now let's go November 15th. Well, we're in the same boat that we talked about with the other group. I mean, we're not going to be encouraging a lot of people to do a performance-focused fat loss phase going into the holidays, right? And so from my standpoint, if you could stabilize your system, get your calories just gradually to a point where your math is working out better, and obviously really focus on work capacity, things of that nature, that's going to be a good thing. And so I think you're on the right path, but I think if you cut right now, essentially you're just going to create a stress atmosphere and you're not going to see a lot of results. And we see that over and over again. And, frankly, you got to stay the course. And even though you're up 5 pounds, I would say gradually, like you could actually, especially if we were talking about doing January, you could gradually move 50 a week up until we get to a reasonable number. But certainly if you're burning that much, here's the other argument, and I appreciate the fact that she's saying I so need to see results. I think you are seeing results. I mean, you've only gained 5 pounds. My suspicion is that some of that is going to end up being lean mass when it's all said and done. I can't create like magic math that allows your body to process food better, that allows you to be more lean and things of that nature. What I can do, though, she's saying, let's see, she CrossFits 3 days a week since January. One of my coaches said they need to work out 4 days a week. I actually think that that's. I was just about to say almost the exact opposite. Not that CrossFit is the problem, because but more CrossFit I don't think is going to necessarily be the answer. It sounds like you might have a pretty active job. What do you do for a living, Christina? And by the way, I mean, some of this under eating is likely contributing to the problem that you're having. Um, and so my suggestion is actually almost the opposite of what your coach's suggestion. I like the fact that you're, let's see, so she's saying that she is a pharmaceutical rep. And so, you know, it sounds like lots of time in the car. I wonder if, like,
She probably has high overall need, because I know she has to walk around doctors' offices and smoosh them and
yeah,
show
but
and
I wonder if, like, you know, the Apple Watch is picking up some of her stuff in the car, like the vibrations, because I know that that's been an issue with Fitbit in the past. Because I mean, nothing that she's saying sounds like she's got a crazy amount of activity, you know. So that would be the thing that would concern me a little bit there.
what are her did she give you her stats?
Yeah, she's saying, you know, well, she's 5'9", 225, and I mean, she's burning 4,000 calories a day some days. My guess is those are the CrossFit days, and the regular days are 3,200. I mean, certainly, see, this is one of the interesting things. A lot of people that have more fat to use think that they have a broken metabolism or they have a bad metabolism. It's actually the opposite of that. And your Apple Watch is showing you evidence of that fact. She's saying she does stand a lot, so that might be a factor. What I would suggest is if you're adding a lot of extra low intensity work or something of that nature, maybe kind of pull that down a little bit. I mean, there's two options, okay? There's the eat more option, and we're sort of talking about how you could gradually move to that. And then there's the chill out a little bit option. And I don't necessarily mean CrossFit, because I like the fact that you're doing 3 days of CrossFit. I don't mind if you want to go 4 days of CrossFit, if you want to do that. But once again, if you do 4 days of CrossFit, okay, and you're only eating 2,500 calories on that day, and it says that you need to eat 4,000 calories on that day, I'm not saying that you need to eat 4,000 calories, but you certainly need to be higher, right? So, you know, then we need to maybe pull back somewhere so we can allow for more recovery. And it sounds like, you know, there's going to be some trial and error with you on that regard. But, you know, if you were coming from an underfed background and we're just getting you to a reasonable number at this point, you know, you need to go the rest of the way, and that's how you're ultimately going to see results in the end. Well, she's saying as long as this thing is accurate. I got bad news for all you guys. None of these things are accurate. You know, they're just trying to get you in a ballpark, but that ballpark is much better than zero, right? This thing is going to allow you to approximate what your activity level is. And so, you know, what you're seeing now, I mean, for somebody who's coming from an underfed background to be, you know, up 5 pounds, feeling stronger, working out better, things of that nature, you know, I think the temptation is to start adding more activity and doing more things. And in the end, I don't think that that's going to be the plan for you, Christine. I think that what we need to figure out is a way where we have enough recovery, you know, and once again, if you want to go 4 days of CrossFit, I don't have any problem with that, but I would like to see you pull back on some of your other stuff so we don't see these huge burns and allow for more active recovery, if that makes sense. She's saying, would the bod pod estimate of TDE be better? No, the bod pod is not going to be better than the thing that you have on your wrist. I mean, that's the one thing that activity trackers are really bringing to the table. And, you know, when people start realizing this, that these are the actual numbers that they're supposed to be, you know, in the ballpark of. Now, certainly, you know, like I said, you know, we want to be a little careful. We don't want you going, you know, off the reservation, eating 4,500 calories or something like that. The other thing that I would really keep an eye on is sodium. I know in Louisiana that could be a really big issue, and you know, you know, having some potassium, you know, in the form of potatoes, things of that nature, that will help. But you know, really kind of water will help, but really just trying to make sure that your sodium's not so super high. The other thing too, I know that when it gets warm, sometimes your weight can be up a little bit, and then you can, you know, kind of hold on to a little bit more water too. Yeah, I bust through that every day. I think the thing that I really need to say to you, and just really try to make this impression on you, is that if you've spent your whole life trying to figure this out, what's another 5 months going to hurt, right? And I know that that's frustrating to hear, but you know, if we can keep you kind of in that, you know, 5 pound range, you know, and we can stabilize at a higher number, then we've got a much better shot of actually getting you where you want to go in the end. He is saying, oh my God, it's hot and I'm swollen sometimes. Yeah, and I think what you'll see, you know, I mean, actually, it's kind of a cooler day today, and I'm, you know, sort of feeling, you know, revived because of that. And so, so keep that in mind. I know it's a little frustrating, and I know that it's tough to hear what we're saying, but in general, this is really the path of recovery. This is the path of why reverse dieting works, and why it'll be the thing that makes a difference for you. Any thoughts on this, April? Because I mean, I would say April is actually more of a hardliner on this than I am. You know, I mean, wouldn't you agree on that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you know, she's still under eating so severely at this point. You know, the reality of it is like what you said, you know, we can give her numbers and she can try to diet, but she's not going to have success, you know. So, you know, I think she'd be in much, much better position, like what you said, increasing her overall calories, you know, getting closer to her expenditures, and then, you know, doing a proper diet where she doesn't have to drop her calories so low.
Yeah, I think the other thing too, you know, is that you're not being mean just to be mean. You're being mean, you know, because it's worked for hundreds of people that you've talked to, you know, and we didn't come up with this expectation, you know what I'm saying, like by accident, you know. And I would say, as we've worked with populations similar to you, we just see it over and over again that they've dieted so extremely that they've never really gotten to that point of recovery, and I think that that's going to be a big thing. She's saying it's not the vibration of her car because it's the same on weekends. So yeah, I mean, that tells me that number's the real number. That's what that's saying to me. So let's move on to Joanna. Joanna's saying, in the mornings at 6 a.m., my husband and I do 30-ish minute workout, consists of heavy weights for the majority of the time. Is this enough to do a workout day for eating, or should I add in cardio or HIIT later in the day? Actually, what's interesting about cardio and HIIT is I would actually add the cardio or the HIIT as a finisher on your heaviest day, 1 day a week. But no, I think see, once again, I mean, this comes back to activity tracker. If you have an activity tracker, then you would know what your burn is, and you could eat, you know, in the ballpark of that burn. Normally, like we're saying with Christina, you know, normally we, with Fitbits and things of that nature, it doesn't always track very well, but it's sort of dependent on the individual. In Christina's case, we're asking her to be a little cautious. In a lot of other people's case, not so much. in general, though, if you work out, the point of working out is to get better at working out. And so it's a workout day, right? And so you should eat workout day calories. Um, and so, I hope that clears that up. But yeah, I mean, if you want to add some HIIT on a heavy day, now if you add HIIT 4 days a week, I'm not a super fan of that. I like to see a little bit more variance in that regard.
I agree. And it's not always about the quantity, it's more about the quality. So if she's working hard and putting forth a lot of effort in the time that she is, I think she's probably fine and not have to stress about adding, more activity overall.
That's where I was really having a lot of hope for the amp strip, because when I had my Omega Wave, which was I still have it somewhere, but the app went weird and stuff. But it was a heart rate variability, and that thing changed my life. Because what it showed me was that if I worked out smarter, it was always better than harder. And then it allowed me to work out harder. So I was able to kind of get to a point where, and what I saw was that I was working out at 60% a lot, and once I started getting into that 90 to 100% range, like things really took off for me and I got a lot smarter. So I was really kind of hopeful that the amp strip would be here quicker. And so, we could start recommending that, and then it would make a big difference for people. I haven't gotten one yet. I've been in contact. I literally talk to the company every two weeks, like, come on, let's get going here, guys. Because I just think I think heart rate variability is something that is going to be a big deal for a lot of people. And so I would keep that in mind. Gina's saying, I'm wondering if we'll struggle to see results if I don't eat clean enough. Yeah, I think that you will struggle to see results if you don't eat clean enough. I think that, I don't like the word clean, I prefer the word whole foods. But I think that the majority of the way that you should eat should be whole foods, right? In that you add in foods in addition to those whole foods that represent, some level of flexibility. But I think that, we were actually having a big discussion about that today in one of the performance-focused fat loss phase. Sarah Soyberg, one of the coaches, she was talking about when she first started doing performance-focused fat loss, that she, was counting like 17 Doritos and stuff like that. And then one of the discussions that I had with her at that point was, look, kick the Doritos to the curb for 8 weeks, and let's make sure we're getting in salads and make sure we're getting in potatoes and making sure we're getting in, like volume of food, because you're not only is that going to be more favorable as it relates to hunger signaling, but it's just going to provide more micronutrients. And so I think that, could you do it? Maybe you could do it. Do I think that when, that's where I think the wave method focus is so huge, because you can be more flexible on the way up. And if you focus on, having a diet of mostly whole foods as we're sort of cutting down, let's say that you were eating in the neighborhood of 2,700 calories, and then you came down to roughly 2,100 calories for somebody that maybe has a little bit more fat to use. It's going to seem, 2,100 might sound like a lot of calories. It doesn't sound like a lot of calories to somebody that's eating 2,700. One of the things that I heard that was pretty funny was this idea that, most people, if they made $500,000 a year, they'd be happy. Who wouldn't be happy? Someone who made 1.5 the year before, right? And so that's the same thing with the calories, is that if you've become accustomed to eating 2,700 calories, and then all of a sudden you're asked to eat 2,100, 2,000, and you don't do it with whole foods, or if that 2,700 you were hitting the Dairy Queen drive-through occasionally, it wasn't too problematic, it will be problematic at 2100. And so you got to figure out ways to get more whole foods into the equation. So, yeah, I think the answer to what you're saying is yes. Let's see. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, April, before we move on?
I've always been a bigger promoter of whole foods. I do think, like what you said, when you're, waving and you're expanding your calories a little bit, there is a little bit of a fudge factor to enjoy a cupcake, on occasion, things like that. But if you're getting, 40, 50% of your calories from cupcakes or Dairy Queen or Big Macs or whatever, I honestly do not think that you're going to feel good. I think your health markers are not going to be as high. Your hair, your skin, your nails, you're just going to be better off with primarily whole foods.
I think it does depend. I mean, I can tell you right now, my calorie burn the other day was like 4,000 calories. And then I had a day where I couldn't have my Fitbit, and I'm pretty sure that was a 4,000 calorie day. You're not going to get to 4,000 calories, eating chicken and kale. So, is that a good ice cream day? Yeah. Is that a good day? Will your weight be stable? No, actually my weight was up on those days, even though I had huge burns and I ate for recovery. But, that's one of the reasons why when we talk about expanding work capacity, people want this magical world where they can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. And unless you're really new to training, that is not reality, and you're best to separate those things. And so, like I'm talking about today with my carb cycling and today, being a little bit lower carbohydrate, some level of carb cycling and recovery, while you're in like these massive training cycles and, makes a big difference. And, I'm pretty sure tomorrow, my calorie burn once again is going to be 4,000 calories, and I'll eat 4,000 calories, because that's the best formula for getting better at exercise. But on September 15th, when I go into my performance-focused fat loss phase, I can't even believe that I'm going to do that shit again. But I'm doing it for you guys. That is the only reason. I do not want to do it, not at all.
Maybe I'll do it this time.
Yeah, last like 2 weeks again.
Actually, I think I lasted like 2 days. But it's funny you were talking about your Fitbit, and you're going to burn 4,000 calories more and you'll eat 4,000 calories. I can honestly say through my journey and my whole process that the biggest issue that I now have, rather than having the fear of eating more like I did when, I ate 1,500 calories and gaining weight, now I have the fear that if I undereat by just like 200 calories, and I have like a really heavy, hard workout and I just busted my ass, I have the fear that like I'm going to lose all my gains. Like I'm going to wake up and, there's maybe like an ounce of muscle I could have regenerated overnight that's not going to be there,
To be honest with you, that's almost the way that you should think, and that's where I think that the book is sort of going to change people's opinion, right? It is, and it provides like a really clear path that, hey, look, the deficit is not the end goal. The end goal is what April's talking about, where, you're making sure that you're eating enough food, nutritious food, micronutrients that's allowing your body to adapt to the stimulus. And that's what really working out's about. And that's, it makes your workouts more enjoyable too. You know what I mean? Because when you're seeing results and you're feeling better and you have more energy and stuff like that, there's nothing negative about that. So George is saying, I just bought a Fitbit Charge HR, which is a pretty cool toy. Part of this, I had a Polar Watch chest strap thing that I use for tracking workouts. I can't help but notice that the chest strap track my heart rate increases during WODs to be a lot higher than my Fitbit does. Is this a common observation? Is it the Fitbit HR that is less accurate? Yes, it is the Fitbit HR that is less accurate. And no, it does not track WODs. I have had some people say that if they, have it tighter during WODs, that it's better. Some people say the opposite. The real value to a Fitbit HR charge is outside of your workouts. I can tell you that if you're doing a CrossFit workout or, a lot of workouts really, you're going to fall in that range of 250 to 500 calories, right? And so you go, well, okay, that's a big difference. And so if the Fitbit's telling me I'm at 250, 300, but I'm actually at 500, that's a 200 calorie difference. I would say that's more important to know the other 23 hours, right? And that's why a Fitbit's important. And so people tend to focus on the exercise part, but there's not a lot of value there, guys. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, it's just, you can estimate it fairly easily. And Fitbit actually knows this. I mean, they talk about it with swimming and some other things that it doesn't track all that well. You can manually put in your workout. So for instance, if you wanted to wear your polar heart strap and you wanted to come up with an average, you can actually put in your calories manually. And so
I was actually just going to recommend that. I've seen a lot of people, we've worked with a lot of people who do that, where they still wear the chest strap during their workouts and get an average over the course of a month or so. And, and then they stop wearing it.
Yeah. So Victor Rivera is saying, what's your caloric intake? I track my calories. I haven't been tracking so well lately. I've been a little sporadic with it just because I'm eating a lot of food, and a lot of the food isn't necessarily, some of it's going to be restaurant food and things of that nature. But normally my burns are 3,000, so I eat 3,000. If my burns are 3,500, I eat 3,500. On the day I eat 4,000, I eat 4,000. And so, and I'm a 170-pound dude. But I think that there's cost to that. And I think a lot of people would say, well, when you're eating ice cream or when you're eating, hamburgers and French fries, that you're causing more inflammation. I got to be honest with you. I don't think it's those things. I really think it's the exercise. I think that, the adaptation to exercise basically starts with some level of inflammation, right? It's trying to get, the nutrients outside of your cell into your cell so you can use it to regenerate new tissue. And so, so I think that the exercise is the biggest culprit. I think that's actually one of the biggest myths, and I think that that's actually one of the things that we've been able to disprove with thousands of people. Does that mean that you shouldn't allow for? I would say if you were to ask me, what's more important, eating a diet of mostly whole foods or rest and recovery, boy, I'd say it's above 50-50. I'd say most people don't allow for adequate rest. And rest can mean a lot of different things, for myself, a weight training day, while not a rest day and I would eat workout calories, it's certainly not going to bang me up the way that a 2-hour cardio session might, as an example, in 100-degree heat, right? So that's something I would sort of keep in mind. Nadia's saying, what does a high average of sodium intake affect your body? I would say that the problem isn't the sodium, it's are you using the sodium, right? And so if you're, they say 2,500 milligrams of sodium, try to, go ahead.
For a female, yeah, 2,500.
So 2,500. The problem is that if it's 100 degrees outside and you're sweating like crazy, then you almost certainly need to be at 400 milligrams, right? And so some level of electrolyte balance is going to make some sense for you. I use Nun tabs. I have Nun tabs, like, I actually need to start putting them in my gym bag, because like the other day when I was doing my cardio, I ran through like, the shaker bottles. I ran through 3 of those, and only the first one had a Nun tab in it. And so, so yeah, I would say that electrolyte balance is a big thing. And I would say that if you're doing a lot, obviously she talked a little bit earlier about the fact that, she, is a little inactive because of an injury, but she is saying that she sweats a lot. Coach told me she needs to reduce it, being called a sodium queen. You might, that's a possibility. But, if you do sweat a lot, I would say that, maybe that's not as big of an issue as your coach thinks. So it's something you can play with. I mean, the thing about sodium that you can figure out right off the bat is if you lower it, do you feel better, and is the scale down? And if the scale's not down and you feel like shit, then bring back in the sodium, right? But if you do the opposite and it works, well, then you sort of figured something out. So some level of playing with that's going to make some sense for you. Let's see. You said scale is stable. Gotcha. So, yeah, I would play with that a little bit. But I would not necessarily, I mean, if you're sweating a lot, you're going to need some sodium, Do you need a lot of added sodium? I'd much rather see like some level of balance with that. Like I said, none tabs, stuff like that. I'm not necessarily thinking you should be adding salt to everything just to try and get there. So Amy's saying, I thought I heard somewhere that I should not track MCT oil as is processed differently. If I didn't track it, I would have much more fat to eat. Thoughts? That is the craziest shit I have ever heard. And I'm going to tell you exactly where you heard it from. It's the people that are selling MCT oil. It's all these bulletproof diet people that think that shit's magic. And the fact of the matter is that, do I cook with MCT oil? Yes. Have I added it to foods and stuff like that? Yes. But is it magical, no calorie stuff? That is incorrect. In fact, it's so incorrect that we've seen many people come to us where they use bulletproof coffee as a large portion of their calories, and they're wondering why they can't, lose fat. And, unless you have like these huge burns, like we were talking earlier, and people were trying to figure out how they could get their calories up. Like if you wanted to gain weight, as an example, MCT oil would be a great addition. Olive oil would be a great addition, right? So all the things that people are trying to put out there, like there's some magic, they're not calorie free, and if somebody's telling you something that, calories don't count, now, the argument on their side, okay, is each food reacts differently in the body. And their argument is that medium chain triglycerides are used as fuel by the body easier, which is true. There's no argument to that. But it doesn't mean that from a caloric standpoint that it has no value at all. I would say that if you're using up, I did find that when, when I was using MCT oil in my coconut milk smoothies, that I did have a little bit more energy. I mean, it wasn't like, I wasn't like, wide crusher or anything like that, but it did seem to give me a little bit of a boost. It might be a good way if you're trying to add some calories, to add some calories kind of safely. I think it is a good oil to cook with. It's stable at high degrees. But this idea that it has no, caloric value, if somebody's doing that, they're probably selling MCT oil or something related to that. That's my opinion on it. What are your thoughts on that, April?
I think you covered it. No, I absolutely would recommend counting it. I have a whole container in my pantry that I used forever ago, and it didn't give me the BGs. So, well,
if you overuse it, it will, You'll.
I didn't use that much. I didn't
Yeah.
use that much, but
I'm just saying, be near a bathroom. That's all I'm saying. But no, it did annoy the shit out of me at the CrossFit Games when those guys were being hailed as if some hero. And I mean, like the science, I mean, everybody has proved those guys wrong over and over again. And for some reason, they're allowing these guys, as if they're like some kind of hero. And, we just don't see it. I mean, not from the standpoint of people that are actually analyzing what people are eating on a daily basis. We've not seen a huge benefit. I mean, does it have, is it better than other oils? Absolutely. Should you cook with it? Sure. If there's an opportunity to make a vinaigrette or something with it, go for it. But, this idea of just adding it as if doesn't have caloric value, that's bullshit. And that can easily be disproven and has been disproven by simply Googling it. I know, like Alan Aragon, as an example, he did a lot of research on that. So let's see, Steve is saying, what are your thoughts on periodized training? I like it. I've done it in the past. The thing that it allows you to do, I would say that, actually most of my training sort of looks like pyramid training. The difference being is that pyramid training on the way up is really just sort of getting to the weights that I'm working up to. And then as I'm coming down, I tend to, especially for upper body stuff, I tend to add reps. So let's say that I'm, in kind of a pyramid type of way. I'm working up, threes and fives, right? And then, maybe at my highest levels, I'm at, threes, and I do 3 times 5. And then I'll start to come down to 8s, 10s, to 15s, and 20s. And so that's how it looks. So it's kind of a weird pyramid. It's kind of like this pyramid, but then it drops off because it's got a lot of volume on the back end once you're warmed up. So that I like pyramid training.
I do a lot of it with upper body too as well.
Yeah, well, especially upper body. The other thing that the one thing I wish I used more was Borge Fajarli's MyoRep training. I'm a huge believer in that, and I wish I don't always think to do it in the gym because a lot of times I'll do circuit training, but the way that it works is you sort of work your muscle to fatigue, and so let's say that actual fatigue might be 95 pounds at 30 reps, right? You'd want to go to about 25 reps, and then once you're at that, I'd have to Google it, but as I recall, you basically allow for enough rest to come back and then hit 7.
I did it. It was 20. I think it was 20 seconds in between.
Okay.
You do as many reps as you can in good form, and then you stop and you rest, and you literally count the clock, and you just take deep breaths. And after 20 seconds, you go again. 20 seconds, you go again until you get 25. It's good. It's very good.
I mean, it will wear your ass out. I mean, you definitely, and it's one of the best ways to really see good hypertrophy. We actually, Borges is a member of Eat to Perform, which I think is kind of cool. And he was a member early on. And so I would like to get him on, I think he's from like Denmark or something. So I don't know what his English is like, but I would like to get him on to talk about that because I think that that's something, from a standpoint of hypertrophy work, hypertrophy is way underdone by a lot of people and could benefit them greatly as they're trying to get strengthened, but also get, kind of aesthetic look. Steve's saying, how much rest do you take between sets when pyramiding? Well, kind of what April was saying, You know, if for instance I'm coming down from like 3s and 5s, and then going to 8s and 10s, I try to keep my rest relatively low. I sort of do the opposite of what I just said with you know, the myo-rep thing. But what I do is once I get to like 15s and 20 rep sets, I just try to get, you know, as little rest as possible. So one of the things that I do a lot is I'll bench press up to 185. I'm coming down 155, 135. So at 95, if I'm working with a guy, I'll go 20, he goes 20. Then, you know, I'll try and do 20, but if I get to 15, he just hops on the bench. I mean, like, we're quick about it, you know. And then the goal is to get to 100 as quick as possible. And you you will feel that in your chest if you're doing bench press, as an example. But that would be how we do it. So as the weight gets lighter, I tend to try to keep the rest a little bit of a minimum, but you know, you gotta have a little bit of recovery, otherwise, you know, you're only going to do 3 reps each time. Catherine is saying, when working up calories or Fitbit numbers, what components should I increase? Carbs, fat, protein, or all 3? In my view, it's going to be carbs a lot of the time. I would say fats on workout days, but I would be much more cautious with fats than I would with carbohydrates, because I think that carbohydrates, especially on workout days, are just going a little better for you. And we haven't seen huge negatives there. What most people see as a struggle is when their fats are high and their carbs are high, right? And so if you keep your fats at a reasonable level on workout days, now we're not saying low, right? I mean, like, even on workout days, my fats tend to be 75 to 100, but usually closer to that 75 gram level. And so, you know, if you're a female, that might be 60 grams for you, you know, maybe even 50 for a smaller female. And so you know, you normally will have somebody kind of gradually work up 25 grams of carbohydrates as they're getting a little bit higher. Certainly, you know, you could have an adjustment for fats, and it's probably something that you would want to talk to a coach about. Any thoughts on that, April? Where would you increase fats? Did we lose April? I think we might have lost April. She's like frozen little thumb.
I froze for a second, but I did have a comment.
Yeah. What is it?
I don't know what you said at the end, but I absolutely agree that you want to increase carbs mostly. There is a little bit of fudge factor with fats, but that's usually dependent upon how high your carbs are going. So, for example, like with you, where you normally average 75 grams or so in fats on your workout days, between 75 and 100 on the days that you have the really high burns and you're trying to get like 500 grams of carbs, I think those are the days that it's fine to fudge the fats up to 100 if you need to, because 500 grams of carbs and keeping your fats lower is like, you know, just.
Well, you're not going to. I mean,
Yes.
like, you know, I mean, when you're eating 4,000 calories, unless you're just eating like, you know, chicken and Vitargo, you know,
Exactly.
you're going to naturally have more fats.
Yes, exactly. So I was just going to say, as depending upon what the actual burn is, you know, if it's super high, you know, once the carbs get up to a, you know, a substantially higher level, certainly lots of fudge factors with the fats.
I will say, you know, I am experiencing a little bit of a good feeling in my training cycle. Because, you know, as most people know, I kind of do kind of a version of Alex Vieda's hybrid training, and basically it's some level of long endurance, weightlifting, and then some CrossFit, right? And so basically, as you're training for a powerlifting meet, you shift some of the focus, but you don't quit the other two, right? And so now I'm shifting more of my focus on CrossFit now that I'm going to be doing a CrossFit competition soon. And you know, I would say I'm just getting to that point where, you know, my unbroken pull-ups are over 20. just really starting to feel the energy. My workouts are really, really good. We did, it was actually a weightlifting day for me, but they, at my gym, they have various teams, and they had an odd number, so they asked me to be on the team. And man, I smoked those workouts, so I'm really excited about it. I mean, I know that, there's some movements that I'm just not that good at, I'm not good at overhead squat. I'm not good at squat clean. I'm not good at, am I proficient? Yeah, I'm proficient. I mean, if they're going to allow us to power clean, I'm good, but, if they're going to make a squat everything, it's going to get a little bit of tough. And, I'm just not built to do that. I work on it though, but in general, I'm sort of hoping for more CrossFit-y type stuff and a little less Olympic weightlifting for the scale division. And if that's how it works out, I think it'll be a real fun competition for me. I'm really sort of hoping that we don't have to do like max overhead squats on first day, because that would suck. So Holly was saying, yes, more info on hypertrophy would be awesome, maybe with the coaches course. Yeah, and so I think I'll try and message Borj. We've had a few conversations. I wouldn't say that we're friends or anything like that, but we definitely have friends in common, and Mike actually might know him well. So anyway, it is actually 8 o'clock, so I appreciate everybody being here. This was a great session, and so April and I have had kind of a long day. April actually had a longer day than I did. So I appreciate everybody being here, and we'll talk to you guys later. April, do you want to say goodbye?
Good night, everybody.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.